All right, so coming up next after this race, after this nice project, we have another serious game speaker on stage. Hello, Eva Duwenkamp. Nice to meet you. Please welcome Eva Duwenkamp. She is co-founder and creative director as well from her own company called OUTERMEDIA, and you will be talking about a serious game called Eugens World, right? Okay. Stage is yours.
Yes, thank you. It's actually called Eugens Welt. It is in German, and I'm just going to call it Eugens World so that I stay in sync with all the names. Okay, you said everything about me. We are well known for our serious games project, and I'm happy to present this project to you, which is about understanding democracy. And after this whole talk in the morning, I'm really glad to show it because we saw a lot of great entertainment games and great designs, really beautiful stuff that I'm glad to take home with, and we also talked about what the two serious games are, the difficult games, and this is exactly that type of game, I think. This is the game where you don't think of the idea of the fun, of the immersion first. There's a job to do. There's teachers that define what they want to teach, what the students need to learn, what's important about democracy. This is targeted at 10 to 14-year-olds, and the game is supposed to be played in the schools. So it's part of the curriculum, actually, everything. So this was defined first, what needs to be taught, and then the client came up with the concept and the framework, how this was supposed to be portrayed. This is the one? Okay, and I want to talk about how we did this, how we produced it, what we had to do, what was important to reach this level of quality in the game, and most importantly, what were the effects? Did it actually work? And did it actually teach democracy? The client is the Südwestrundfunk, that is a German public service broadcasting station, and they produce media, films, and games for the school system. And they made a TV series in 4 parts that existed prior to the game. The story is roughly this. In the middle is Eugen. He lives together with his mother in an old house, which is very run down, decaying. Together with him, there are other residents who are foreign, strange, show weird behavior. They sort of get along, but not really. And there is a evil house owner with a German name, Herr Klotz. And he wants to tear down the house and build a shopping center on the property. Of course, the residents are against that, and they have to unite and fight to keep this house. And since they all have different opinions how to do this, or what they want, or what they think is appropriate, the film alone teaches something about the basic principles of democracy, basically. So, and this existed in 2008, and in 2010 we were asked to turn this into a serious game, and we did get a script from the client that outlined everything that was supposed to happen. So that's how we started. We had the script, we had the story, the cast and set design. It had a beautiful theme music, and that's what we were working with. And we just did this hands-on job of how do you create a user interface for that? What is the story? And the story had some complications. For example, it took place only within the house, and in the house within the hallway, in the stairwell, so to say. And the levels were determined by the apartments of the people, and they were stacked on top of each other. That means we had 4 levels to reach to the top level, and that's where all the action was supposed to happen. The goal was one of the renters would move out. The user had to apply to move in on the top floor. And to do this, he had to first solve little tasks and move up the levels to reach the top floor. And he also had to prove himself to show that he was a social citizen, somebody who would help out, who would be accepted by the community. So this is the beginning where we didn't have any artwork, and we just worked with sketches to figure out what to do, what needed to be done about the navigation, what needed to go where. We analyzed the style of the films and noticed that it had a lot of nice details, the structure, the dirty look, dirty dark, lots of garbage lying around. And we had to design the characters. Now, these are actually really well-known actors in German TV, and the client really wanted them to be recognizable so that the students would see it and recognize, oh, this is something really good. And the actors also contributed with their abilities to the success of the films. And we were not able to work with photorealism, of course, because speaking of budgets, that's totally out of scope. And so we came up with a style of illustration that is stylish, but shows they're still recognizable, the characters, and it gave us the freedom to animate them in a way that we needed, first of all. Then we, this is like the first idea of what the staircase would look like. It would have a sort of collage feel where we would incorporate some of the structures that we found in the film. That was a close-up where you see one of the characters in more detail. Next step was the UI design and icons that had a lot of detail to them. And I thought that since we only had these few rooms to work with, it would be nice to offer some eye candy, some nice images, nice little elements that could keep the users entertained. How to walk through doors or up and down the stairs, show some progress on the stairs. Then typical for game design, lots of different views of the status. These are the different tasks that show you how much progress you made. That also determines when you can go up and get your final interview to move in. So the completed tasks, not complete tasks, locked, unlocked. Chose a typeface that was readable, but stylish, and played around a little bit with it. And that's finally when we came together, all the illustration was done, the character design was done, and the user interface design. And you can see that this is one of the 4 screens where we had to put all the elements that the users had to collect to solve their tasks. On the bottom is the main navigation. And there's garbage lying around, quite a lot of it. And that's what the students, when they try it out, they find it by accident, click on it, and then they get the first feedback that they will get bonus points for picking up garbage. And they will need the bonus points. This is the inventory where you can see how many points you've collected and how far you've come. And that was a elevator navigation that would help you to skip through the levels. For example, to the 2nd floor. Of course, in a school game, there is content that needs to be read. There are chapters, and they are connected to infographics and facts and games, of course, that are relevant to this aspect. Could you play the film, please? We made a little gameplay video that sums it up a little bit.
Willkommen in Eugens Welt. Meiner Welt, der Sackgasse 777.
Hallo.
Du suchst dringend eine eigene Wohnung und bewirbst dich als Nachmieter für das Dachgeschoss der Sackgasse 777. Eugen und die übrigen Hausbewohner nehmen die Bewerber genau unter die Lupe. Im Haus auf dem Weg nach oben testen sie dich mit Aufträgen. Wie steht es mit deinem Gemeinschaftssinn? Zeigst du Engagement, wenn's drauf ankommt? seine demokratischen Rechte und Pflichten? Am besten, du wendest dich zwischendurch immer mal an Eugen. Aber am Ende hat natürlich auch Vermieter Klotz ein Wörtchen mitzureden.
Moment mal, Sie wollen hier einziehen? Was meinen denn die Damen und Herren der Hausgemeinschaft zu Ihrer Kandidatur?
Could you go back to the presentation? Thank you. So, when we just fly through the highlights, you don't really get an idea of the work involved to produce this. And just to give you an idea, there were 31 casual games inside of this one serious game, and it did take 1.5 years to complete. And the challenge was to, in each single one, it was the challenge to take the concept and try it out if really the learning aspect came across, if it really worked. This is a really simple example. It's actually just a quiz with one single select question, basically. And it was combined with an illustration that shows that illustrates the options that you have, and it's a really simple case study. It's called Show Moral Courage, and it doesn't really, it's no technical effort to produce this, but just doing the UI design is really, that's what our work is. You take the content, what needs to be learned, and does it really come across? I just want to show it to you briefly. It says, your best friend abuses your trust and tells you a secret. What do? Show emotions? Pay her back the same? Or you confront her, and then the feedback says, right, you should not accept that from her, and in this confrontation you can find out whether this friendship still means something. It's a simple thing, but it worked actually out that for a 10 to 14-year-old, this is a situation that they can identify with, that they will face sooner or later, and that it makes them think what would be the right choice, and the illustration really underlines their options. That's a game that is also a simple mechanic. It's called Save the Park, and you had to argue your case, what you wanted. You didn't want a parking garage in front of your house, and you had to select your arguments, and those were judged whether they were strong enough, and then you would move forward in the game. And I'm just showing this to show that there are a lot of different views to such a simple game. High effort for the design. That's another one of my favorites. It's called the Votometer, and also the interface doesn't look very exciting. It doesn't look very fun. And while I was making it, I really didn't know whether it would work, whether the users would have a use for it, because the scenario was so foreign. Only the real test of the finished product would show whether it would work. It is with it you can create a survey with one question and a couple of answer options, and the students would get then, if the other students in the class fill it out, then they get a pie chart with the result or a bar chart, and they can have unlimited amount of surveys. This only works when the teacher sets up an account with all the students. But we didn't really know whether they would have a use for it. And it turns out that the first user feedback came in from the teacher that the students, they liked it a lot, and they're done now with the game, but they think that they can still use it for their work in class. And whenever a class representative needs a vote in the classroom, then he goes to his teacher and says, sir, I need the Votometer. And then the whole class goes online into the game to use this tool, which is kind of cool. And the teacher himself said that he can tell that the students have learned something from the way they did act in discussions that are, for example, led by a class representative. All of a sudden, they do argue quite differently, and they interact differently with each other. And it doesn't seem so wrong anymore to give in a little bit, to make concessions to others, because of Eugens Welt, it has become easier for the class to make compromises and to ease conflicting situations. So the teacher actually reports that the students changed their behavior and that they were able to use their new abilities to argue, to solve conflicts in their community. And now if you ask yourself, when was the last time that you were able to change your behavior from something that you read or that you heard or that you experienced? It rarely happens. That is the highest form of praise imaginable. He said also they were highly motivated through the films and the game, and that they were able to play it intuitively, understand it intuitively. And then in the end, they asked him, when can we do this again? Because this is unusual for them in their school context. These students, they play Minecraft at home, but when they're at school, they know they need to understand something that is immaterial, that is not something that you can touch like an object, or you can, it's not a building that you can get information to, but it's an abstract concept, like how to solve a conflict. And the teacher's feedback was also that he would like to have such an extensive collection of materials for many other subjects. And I think that tells us something about the need for serious games, in this country at least. And for us, it's the best feedback ever and the greatest compliment to our work. And it worked out exactly as we had planned. Currently, we saw a game about Rome and a company called Rome, and we are actually working on another project for the same client about Rome, not exactly Rome, but an antique Roman city. And after the encouragement that we got from this feedback, we are definitely going to give it our best again. So thank you for listening, and if you want to try it out online, it's free. This is the URL.
Thank you very much. I definitely have to show this game to my working mates to make them understand. Get a bit cultural to our discussions, actually. Wonderful, wonderful. Good luck with your next project concerning Rome. As we said before, many roads lead to Rome.